What if I told you there's a neighborhood in Los Angeles that is literally cooling itself down by painting its streets? This isn't some futuristic science fiction concept. It's the vibrant, living reality in Pacoima, a community transforming itself from one of the city's most dangerously hot areas into one of its absolute coolest in every single sense of the word. But this story is about so much more than just innovative, colorful paint. It's a powerful tale of a community fighting back against a hidden, insidious enemy, a phenomenon known as thermal inequality. Have you ever wondered why one part of a city can feel like a furnace while another, just a few miles away, remains pleasantly mild? Why does this predominantly Latino neighborhood get a staggering and frankly dangerous 7 degrees hotter than whiter, wealthier parts of the same city like Silver Lake? Imagine walking down a street where the pavement is literally hot enough to cause burns, where the air is thick and stagnant, and where finding shade is a desperate struggle. Now imagine that just a short drive away, tree-lined avenues and grassy parks offer a cool, green respite. This isn't a fluke of geography, it's a design, a legacy etched in concrete and zoning laws. The answer is a disturbing look into a long history of systemic oppression and what is now being called environmental racism. Today, we are going to dive deep into the incredible, multifaceted story of Pacoima. We will uncover its rich, complex, and often overlooked history, tracing its journey from its indigenous roots to becoming a rare sanctuary for minorities in a deeply segregated city. We'll explore how a burst of creative energy in the form of the famous Mural Mile gave the neighborhood a powerful new identity. And most importantly, we will reveal the fascinating science behind its groundbreaking, life-saving solution to a lethal problem, and unpack what this stunning community-led initiative means for the future of our overheating cities all across the globe. The story of Pacoima doesn't begin with asphalt and industry, it begins with the land itself. To truly understand its present, we have to travel back in time, long before Los Angeles even existed as a concept. Around the year 450, this area was home to the Tataviam tribe, who called it Pacoima Village. For centuries, they were the stewards of this land, living in harmony with the environment. But this world was shattered with the arrival of European colonizers, who decimated the indigenous community and irrevocably altered the landscape. Fast forward to the 19th century, after the Mexican-American War, when the United States acquired California. The land was formally established as Pacoima in 1887. The initial vision for this newly American territory was grandiose and exclusionary. Developers planned to turn it into an exclusive, high-end community for wealthy white settlers. But nature, it seems, had other plans. A devastating flood in 1891 completely washed away that dream of an elite enclave. The grand plans were abandoned, and the area was repurposed for a more humble, practical use. It became sprawling agricultural land. This dramatic shift set the stage for Pacoima's next, and perhaps most defining, chapter. As the 20th century dawned, new forces began to shape the neighborhood. The Mexican Revolution, which began in 1910, sent waves of people fleeing north in search of safety and opportunity. At the same time, Los Angeles was a city rife with racial segregation. Racially restrictive covenants were widespread, and these weren't just social norms. They were legally binding clauses in property deeds, explicitly forbidding the sale of homes to anyone not of Caucasian descent. This practice, often enforced through a process known as redlining, effectively created invisible walls around entire communities, funneling minority populations into specific, often less desirable and under-resourced areas. Pacoima, through that twist of fate involving a flood that scared away wealthy investors, became one of the very few cracks in this formidable wall. It emerged as a place where minorities, particularly those of Mexican descent, could actually purchase land and build a life. This wasn't an act of progressive policy, it was a consequence of neglect. But for those locked out of everywhere else, it was a lifeline. It was a place to put down roots. The community's diversity continued to grow over the following decades. It wasn't just Mexicans. Japanese and African American residents also found a foothold in Pacoima, creating a unique cultural tapestry that was rare for its time. A particularly significant transformation occurred after World War II. The nation was grappling with a severe housing shortage, and Pacoima became central to a new wave of development. It blossomed into a vibrant enclave for the Black middle class. African American families, many fleeing the oppressive Jim Crow laws of the South or returning as decorated veterans from the war, saw Pacoima as a place to achieve the American dream of homeownership. The city, eager to meet housing demands, rapidly constructed homes and actively marketed them to this community. For a time, Pacoima was a symbol of Black prosperity and upward mobility in Southern California. Over the subsequent decades, the demographic tides shifted once again, and the neighborhood's African American population gradually gave way to a predominantly Latino one, which is how it is largely known today. This long, layered history of racial and cultural diversity has made Pacoima a truly significant and unique place in the vast expanse of Los Angeles. But tragically, this very history, the story of a community built by those who were systematically excluded from other areas, also directly contributed to the development patterns that have now made it one of the hottest and most environmentally vulnerable neighborhoods in the entire county. It's a stark reminder that the consequences of historical injustice are literally baked into the asphalt of our cities. If this reality shocks you as much as it should, take a second to hit that like button to show your support for communities like Pacoima that are bravely fighting for a healthier and more equitable environment. The root of the heat problem lies in the very foundations of the neighborhood. When those large housing tracts were built in a rush from the 1930s to the 1950s, features we now consider standard, like proper insulation and central air conditioning, were not commonplace, especially in homes built for working-class and minority communities. Many of Pacoima's buildings still lack these crucial features, leaving residents dangerously exposed to soaring temperatures. This issue was then massively compounded by industrialization. After World War II, the San Fernando Valley became an industrial powerhouse. Giants like General Motors and Lockheed opened massive factories in and around the area to meet the demands of the booming post-war defense industry. And as historical patterns of environmental racism show time and time again, these high-polluting industrial plants are almost always located near communities of color and low-income residents. The pollution from these factories has had a lasting, detrimental effect on Pacoima's climate. Add to that other factors like significantly lower tree coverage compared to wealthier neighborhoods and the prohibitive cost of installing and running air conditioning for many families. This pattern is a textbook case of environmental racism. Decisions made decades ago in corporate boardrooms and city planning offices determined that the air breathed by the residents of Pacoima was less valuable. It meant that polluting factories, noisy freeways, and industrial waste sites were placed right at their doorstep, while parks, greenbelts, and tree planting initiatives were prioritized for wealthier, whiter neighborhoods. This lack of green space is not just an aesthetic issue. Trees provide essential cooling shade and improve air quality. Their absence in Pacoima is a direct contributor to the life-threatening heat island effect, where a community's health is jeopardized by conditions created by systemic inequality. But Pacoima is a community of resilience and creativity. Long before it started painting its streets to fight the heat, it was painting its walls to express its soul. In 2013, a visionary local artist named Levi Ponce decided to transform the neighborhood's visual landscape. He created what is now famously known as Mural Mile, a stunning stretch of buildings adorned with vibrant, large-scale murals. His work features playful and powerful reinterpretations of classic art, like The Girl with the Hoop Earring, and a depiction of the Mona Lisa as a fierce Mexican warrior, complete with a sombrero and a dagger. This project single-handedly put Pacoima on the map as one of the most exciting places to see world-class street art in all of Los Angeles, turning a once-overlooked district into a burgeoning hub of culture and pride. It's this same spirit of bold artistic innovation that the community is now channeling to combat the extreme heat. In 2018, a new and radical element was added to Pacoima's public art scene, a plan to use bold cooling paint on sidewalks, playgrounds, and buildings. A powerful coalition of nonprofits, dedicated community organizers, and local council members came together to address the life-threatening heat and its associated health risks. Their plan was as simple as it was brilliant: paint the town cool. By coating surfaces with a special sun-reflecting paint, they could actively bring down the ambient temperature, making Pacoima not just figuratively, but literally one of the coolest neighborhoods around. The first major phase of this groundbreaking initiative took place in 2022. The project targeted about 18 blocks of the neighborhood, focusing on areas frequented by the most vulnerable residents, children and older adults. The special cooling paint was applied to streets and public spaces, and in a beautiful nod to the neighborhood's identity, the colors chosen were bright and evocative of the murals dotting the landscape. Now, Pacoima wasn't the very first part of Los Angeles to experiment with this technology. Sun-reflecting paint had previously been used to cool down parts of Hollywood and even the trend-setting neighborhood of Koreatown. But there was a critical difference in Pacoima's approach. While the other projects used an asphalt-based paint, Pacoima's team opted for an acrylic-based coating. This turned out to be a game-changing decision. The scientific principle at play here is called albedo. Think of it as a surface's ability to reflect sunlight. Dark asphalt, which covers so much of our urban landscape, has a very low albedo. It absorbs almost all of the sun's energy and radiates it back as heat, creating a giant urban oven. The brilliant light-colored acrylic coating, on the other hand, has a very high albedo. It acts like a mirror, reflecting the sun's rays back into the atmosphere instead of absorbing them. The failure of the earlier asphalt-based paint in other areas was subtle but significant. While the surface itself was cooler, the specific way it scattered the reflected heat could actually increase the felt temperature for a person standing on it. Pacoima's acrylic solution avoids this, cooling both the surface and the immediate air around it, a crucial distinction for pedestrians. The data is incredible. It has successfully reduced surface temperatures by a full 10 degrees, and crucially, it has lowered the air temperature near the ground by 2 degrees. That may not sound like a lot, but in a heat wave, a 2-degree difference can be the margin between comfort and a medical emergency. And, in perfect harmony with the neighborhood's artistic tradition, the project is also a form of public art. A stunning Beat the Heat mural was painted at a local elementary school using the very same reflective coating. The technology is also being tested on rooftops to see if it can help cool the inside of buildings, potentially saving lives and lowering energy bills for residents who have been bearing the brunt of this thermal inequality for far too long. This initiative is more than just a clever engineering solution. It's a form of climate justice in action. For generations, the residents of Pacoima have disproportionately borne the burden of industrial pollution and urban neglect. Now, they are leading the charge in creating solutions that are not only effective, but also deeply rooted in their community's cultural identity. The painted streets are a visual declaration of resilience, a refusal to accept a future of ever-increasing heat, and a demand for a healthier environment. This model is being watched closely by cities from Phoenix to New Delhi, places grappling with their own deadly urban heat islands. Pacoima is proving that the fight against climate change can be won, one vibrant, cool, and community-painted block at a time. To make sure you don't miss our next investigation into the incredible stories shaping our world, subscribe to the channel and join the conversation in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Pacoima is more than just a place on a map. It's a living example of resilience, a community that refuses to be defined by its challenges and instead chooses to paint its own brighter, cooler future. Through every mural and every coated street, the people of Pacoima are not just lowering the temperature, they are raising their voices, demanding a more just and sustainable world for everyone. Their innovation serves as a vital lesson for cities everywhere. The most powerful solutions often come not from the top down, but from the ground up, from the very communities that have the most at stake. The vibrant streets of Pacoima are a declaration that a better world is possible, and it might just be waiting to be painted into existence.